Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Frenzy Extra. I'm Andy Lacombe. This is the Central Mass Championship Preview edition of the Extra. We're coming to you from Shrewsbury High School where the Colonials are getting ready for a rematch in the CMass Championship game, a rematch from an earlier season game with St. John's. More from Shrewsbury in just a little bit. Here's a look at what we will be showing you on Saturday. Doyle Field, the place to be for Division 4, 11 a.m. Marlboro and Neshoba in a rematch of a regular season game won by the Chieftains. Division 6, 2 p.m. game, St. Peter, Marion, and Littleton in a matchup. Should feature a little bit of offense in that one. Division 3, the big one, 5 p.m. at Doyle Field, Shrewsbury and St. John's. Pioneers won the regular season matchup. Shrewsbury, remember, beat the Johnnies in the playoffs a year ago. At Commerce Bank Field, Division 8, 11 a.m., Bartlett taking on Neshoba Tech in a very rare matchup between these two schools, especially in the postseason. Division 7, 2 p.m., Leicester and Valley Tech, a rematch of a regular season game won by the Fighting Beavers. And then in Division 5, 5 p.m., Auburn is back in the Central Mass Championship game. They take on a defending Central Mass champ in the Nipmuc Warriors, undefeated so far this season. All right, our previews start now in Division 8, the Bartlett Indians and the Neshoba Tech Vikings, and a game that Dane LeBossinier, the Bartlett head coach, has admitted he's never even seen Neshoba Tech live prior to this week. So now as Bartlett gets ready, they've got a throwback coach and a throwback offense, a single wing. The Indians are geared up for a chance at a Central Mass title.
Did a lot of good things. Kids executed most phases of the game. I have to say we could probably get a little bit better defensively, taking better angles to the ball. Offensively, we can still find ways to improve. But at the end of the day, you can take away a lot of good things from the kids really working hard with one another to execute the game plan as a team. And it's team football is one thing we preach here, and the kids did a great job executing it together. I've been coaching in Central Mass for 10 years now, and I've never so much as seen them play in person. They're unique. They run a really good offense. They seem to be well coached. Quarterback and running back are very good. The O-line is big and physical. Receivers catch the ball. Defensively, they have a lot of athletes running around. On film, they appear to be a very good team. So we're going to see what they're all about on Saturday for sure, and hopefully, we come to play and bring our A game.
If you're into meditation or if you just need some alone time, come to Shrewsbury on Saturday night because the town might be emptied out. They may be all up in Leominster watching Shrewsbury and St. John's in Division 3. This is a big one. It's a rematch of a regular season game won by the Pioneers. But Shrewsbury learned some things from that game, as did the Pioneers. But the Colonials ready for another test and ready for another chance at a Central Mass Championship.
We're so excited to be here. I mean, every week's a battle, and the kids have worked so hard, dating back to February in the weight room. And our coaches have worked really hard, so we're really excited for the opportunity. Can't wait.
Definitely an exciting matchup throughout our town and even Central Mass. We got to focus on one thing ourselves this week and make sure we practice hard and have the best week of practice. Hopefully results will come out good for us.
Everyone's definitely excited. Kids have been locked in since the win over Shepherd Hill. I knew we had kids knowing that we were probably going to play St. John's. So everyone knew this is going to be we're going to have our best week. Everyone's going to have to lock in and practice, watch film and stuff like that in order to be successful.
Anytime you play a team, you have film on them against you, which is nice. But it's just a whole new set of circumstances. We're 5 or 6 weeks later now, and lineups are a little bit different. Weather's a little bit different. Teams progress at different paces. So I don't know that the other 3 games we've had with them in the last couple of years matter much. We just we know we have a tremendous challenge ahead of us.
Down to Blackstone Valley now, and both Blackstone Valley Tech and Nipmuc playing great football. Both teams are in Central Mass Championship games this weekend. They are Thanksgiving rivals. They've got a pretty unique situation going on in the town of Upton right now. For more on that, Brenna Wilson's here, and she chatted with both teams this week.
Yeah, the Nipmuc Warriors and the BBT Beavers are enjoying all the success that they've had so far this season, and they're only a stone's throw away from each other. 4 undefeated football teams remain in Central Massachusetts. 2 practice and play their games right across the street from one another. Separated by Pleasant Street and Upton, the Nipmuc Warriors and Blackstone Valley Tech Beavers are both 9-0. This week, both teams are preparing for the Central Mass Finals.
We're going to have a good week of practice, and we're going to have to play our best. We're going to have to execute on Saturday.
It's going to be tough preparation. Auburn's a great team. So, I mean, you can't take them lightly whatsoever.
The Nipmuc Warriors face a tough Auburn team on Saturday. It's a program they have not yet seen. The Warriors know they can compete if they put the work in. This season, Nipmuc is outscoring opponents 214 to 59.
It's great, we've been working hard this entire season, really excited for it, see how far we can go.
They do overall work extremely hard, and they put in the effort. It's a hard job, so they buy in and they're doing the work, and that's what it's about. All the teams that are alive are working their tails off.
Across the street, the Beavers are also putting in the work, averaging 32 points a game.
It means a lot, we put in a lot of work for this. We deserve it. We put in a lot of work this offseason in the weight room, captain's practices, everything.
The coaches, they tell us what to do, and we just execute, and it's worked out this year so far.
Kind of brought that physical mentality back that our team had been lacking over the last couple of years. So testament to them, how hard they work and how much they've wanted this success.
The Beavers face Leicester on Saturday, a team they saw early in the season. BVT won the game 21-9, but they know it will be a challenge this week.
It was week 3, so I think both teams have evolved at this point. They're so multiple. They have 4 or 5 guys that can score from anywhere on the field, so they're really tough to defend. So I think having already seen them in that respect, we kind of are a little bit familiar, with their speed and their size.
In a few weeks, these two competitive rivals will meet on Thanksgiving. It is sure to be a treat for the entire town.
The schools, you can throw a rock at that school, so it's pretty close. So it makes it a big rivalry. They're playing against kids they grew up with. They're playing against kids they play football with.
They have another phenomenal team, and also in the district final. So it's hopefully it can be the most well-attended JV game in the state if we both get to where we'd like to go.
And no matter what happens this weekend, both teams will be meeting up on the field on Thanksgiving in what should be a great game.
Yeah, hopefully it's a great game. Hopefully, they're not resting people. Arch, come on, shut down the street in Upton. It'll be a lot of fun. Brenna, thanks very much. All right, this week, 2 frenzies, Friday night, regular time, 10:25, all the games in the final week before Thanksgiving in the regular season. And then Saturday, the Central Mass Finals edition. We've got all the championship games covered for you, and that coverage begins Saturday on Charter TV3 beginning at 10:30 p.m. Time for a quick break. Coming up, Kevin Shea and Jim Wilson break it all down for you, what you need to know going in to Saturday's big matchups. Stay with us. Coming up this week on the Friday Night Football Frenzy, Shepherd Hill visits the General's Den to battle Doherty. West Boylston brings the double wing to the Woolly Swamp to face Millbury. Quabbin and their high-flying offense come to the big city to square off against North. And Oakmont makes the trek south to visit Northbridge. It's the Frenzy on Charter TV3. The Frenzy is presented by Bay State Savings Bank, the law offices of Joseph J. Cariglia, Worcester State University, and Unibank.
Welcome back, everyone. Kevin Shea with the sports editor for the Telegram Gazette, Jim Wilson, and really, it is Super Bowl week. Central Mass Super Bowl week. For my money, this is the biggest week. I mean, next week we'll play Western Mass, and then the week after it'll be Eastern Mass. But for my money, it's still the Central Mass Super Bowls are the biggest deal of the 3. And this is the one that I get the most excited about.
It's huge. This is what you play for. This is exactly what people are looking. Obviously, it's the Central Mass Super Bowl.
Right. It's your bragging rights.
This is it.
In your area, in your backyard, and then you go on and play Western Mass, and I still like the Western Mass, Central Mass Super Bowls, but
not
and then you go into Eastern Mass, and and it's
you don't
different.
get fired up to play
no
Westfield.
No, you don't.
You do,
it's not
but you
the same.
don't. You know what I'm saying?
The same
People know what we're talking about.
Yeah, rematches. The coaches and the kids know. Bartlett and Neshoba Tech. We're going to start with Division 8 and work backwards because we always get caught up.
Something we should have thought about like 4 weeks ago, but
which is why we're both in sports and we're not in education. All right, we're going to start with Division 8. We got Bartlett and Neshoba Tech. Again, we don't see a whole lot of Neshoba Tech. One, they're up there in Westford and playing the independent schedule. This Bartlett team, though, is tested. I mean, they lost some games, some tough games to Northbridge and Uxbridge, but Northbridge and Uxbridge are, they're much better than anyone in Division 8. So it's, in terms of going up against the metal, going up against the iron, they have done it. And winning on the road at St. Bernard's last week was a huge win for Bartlett. and switching things up too, going to the single wing. LeBeau having a huge day. This, I think, Coach LeBossinier-Dale has done a phenomenal job of adjusting on the fly with his team.
Exactly, like you said, with the schedule they play, this is just another game for them. I mean, I think Neshoba Tech, especially since dropping the independent schedule, getting out of the Cal, and just it's kind of hard. I picked Lunenburg to beat them last week because I thought Lunenburg was more tested. I mean, yeah, they have Vinny Aramo, who's a dual threat, probably one of the better dual threats in the area. Because coach has said if he doesn't score 5 touchdowns on the ground, he'll throw for 5. So it's like depending on what if they
pick your poison.
Yeah, if Bartlett wants to sort of stack the box, try to slow him down, he can find the open receivers. But I think Bartlett has seen something like that week after week. I think their third toughest game this year has been probably tougher than anything Valley Tech's ever.
Right.
Neshoba Tech's ever.
When you look at it in terms of stopping aerial attacks, if you've already played Northbridge and Uxbridge, two teams that throw the ball really well, that's going to get you ready for playing any team in terms of trying to stop the pass.
Nothing they see on film is going to surprise them.
No, and I think what Bartlett is an old-fashioned physical Bartlett team, first and foremost. That's what I think how they won the game last week. They won it with physical play and on the backs of their lines. Brett LeBeau had the touchdowns, and he gets the headlines, but this is all about that line. That line physically wore down St. Bernard's. They opened holes. They stayed on their blocks. They got on their blocks, and they stayed on their blocks. It's not just hit and release. It's hit and drive.
Right.
And I think the line right now on both sides, offensive and defensive lines for Bartlett, playing with a lot of confidence, playing with a little nastiness that you need in the playoffs. And that's why guys like LeBeau and Soto have so much success.
Right. Let's be honest, this is probably Bartlett's biggest game in years. I mean, even when they've had the good teams, when Dane first came out a couple of years ago, they never be able to beat, like you said, never be able to beat the Northbridges and the Auburns in the playoffs.
Right.
They always sort of had, just there was one or two teams better than them. This they have a chance to bring home a trophy.
Bring home a Central Mass Super Bowl.
That's
right.
huge.
And again, and everyone in both of these towns knows it's still second to Thanksgiving Day with Southbridge.
Of course, right.
Southbridge is
the
biggest game that they'll play all season long, no matter what happens. Even if they win a Central Mass Super Bowl, people will still be chirping, you got to beat Southbridge, you got to beat Southbridge. But it's a great game, and it is a huge game for Bartlett this week, the Super Bowl. Division 7, Leicester BVT. A rematch game. Blackstone Valley Tech beat Leicester early in the year, and they beat them good. They thumped them.
Right.
Leicester right now is playing great football. The biggest thing to me is you have two physical teams here. Leicester played a real physical game a week ago. They beat West Boylston, which is a very good team. That was a physical football game. So how quickly can Leicester heal up to get ready for Blackstone Valley Tech? You can't say enough about the job that Coach Archibald has done at Blackstone Valley Tech because they turned over almost the entire starters on both sides of the ball. For them to be in this spot again and to be the favorite, playing for the Central Mass Super Bowl, having already beaten Leicester during the regular season, you can't say enough about what this staff has done.
Right, they lose their quarterback to a broken collarbone a couple weeks ago, and they still just keep winning.
Yeah.
That's just like you said, they love these black and blue games.
Yes, they do.
For Leicester coming off West Boylston and walking funny after that game, they're going to come right into another brick wall of Valley Tech, and there's no rest. They know, that limp they're going to have on Thursday is going to be the same thing Friday and Saturday, just because Valley Tech's just a tough team.
Right. This is one of those games that the next day and the day after, when the kids go to brush their teeth and they go to lift your arm, your shoulders are all sore, and you feel it the next day. And I look at some of the linemen for Leicester: Nate Power, Joe Friscola, Mike Mercier, Eddie Burt, Ryan Jost, LaHood as well, Tyler Grable, too. Guys that bring a lot of toughness and attitude to this team. Kyle Padini, as one of the things that's maybe different between this and the first meeting, you and I talked about it, Padini has really hit his stride.
Yeah.
He is one of the best running backs in Central Mass. I talked to an opposing coach of Leicester's earlier in the week. He said, he, to me, is one of the top 3, maybe 5 running backs in Central Mass, and reminds him a little bit of Cole McCoubry with his speed, with the breakaway speed, that when he gets to the second level, he can fly right by linebackers and safeties, and he's a real tough runner, too. He said, he's not the size and the strength of McCoubry, but in terms of toughness and speed, he's right there with him.
Right, and you look at when Leicester lost a couple games early in the year, Padini wasn't that much of a factor.
Right.
And you look at it's no coincidence when Leicester starts becoming the machine they are now.
Right.
That's because he's running for 200, 300 yards a game.
And both of these teams are predicated on the same thing, and that is physical, hard-nosed football. This game's going to be won or lost in the trenches, which is the way both coaches would want it to be.
Right.
They don't want finesse. It's going to be a board drill.
Yeah.
And at the end of the night, who wins the one-on-one battles on the boards is who's going to win this football game. This is a game you and I talked about. We love these All of these matchups we love, and Willie and I, this is a game you'd love to be able to just go sit in the stands, get popcorn, and just watch, and just say, I'm going to enjoy this game and watch these two real good physical football teams, because even with all rule changes and trying to make the game as safe as possible for the players, and you have to do that, it's still a physical football game. It still comes down to who's tougher than who on most occasions, and who physically is going to knock their opponent backwards. And that's what this game's all about.
It's old school, like, when you're playing football with your friends back when kids used to do that on their own time.
That's right.
It was, you get 11 kids, my 11's going to, punch you in the face for, 40 minutes.
Right.
And then whoever walks away gets the whole little trophy at the end, takes pictures with the parents on the field.
And that's what this game's going to be. And I love it. And I love it. Division 6. We got St. Peter Marion and Littleton. A very intriguing game. This is not one of the rematch games. We do have a lot of rematches. This is not one of them. St. Peter's and Littleton haven't played each other, don't have common opponents.
Right.
So this is almost like a brand new game for both teams, because you can't say, well, they play these three teams and these three teams, and how do they match up? You don't with this one.
Which is good. That's why I like to see that kind of thing, just sort of unfamiliarity. You're trading huddle films halfway through the week trying to figure out how to, you're calling the coaches, what do they run against you? We run a similar offense to this, how are they going to stop it?
Right.
It's a good test for the coaching staffs, and both of them have very good staffs. So I'm curious to see what they come out with, because they don't hide it. They know what they're going to do. I mean, Littleton has the same offense they've been running for years, with 4 different running backs that can carry it all. You want to stop Brad Clark? That's fine. Mitch Bowden's going to come in and run for 200 yards against you.
That's right. Austin Lynn's another one, 8.5 yards that carry. Lynn averages.
It's silly. We've been saying for years.
Averages 8.5.
We've been saying all season how much this Littleton team is, from all the other coaches are telling us, better than any of those other teams that they put on Gillette, and they bringing the sledgehammer out and all that stuff. This is one of those teams that people are going to be talking about for years. But St. Peter Marion's not scared. They've played teams as tough as
They
legendary.
played Concord, Carlisle. They played Doherty. So they've played a level of physical teams and also a skill level too.
Right.
That's one of the things that I think when you line them up against everyone on their schedule, Littleton skill-wise is better than everyone on their schedule. Up and down you go, okay, wide receivers, running backs. Littleton would have the edge in every single game. This is a team that might be able to match up, and you and I were talking about this, with Danny Mom and Matt Dunphy. Maybe in the secondary, Mom and Dunphy get a lot of attention for what they do offensively, but defensively in this game, they may be able to match up with the tall, physical Littleton wide receivers that no one has been able to match up with all season. First and foremost, if you're Littleton, how do we stop Danny Mom? Because he can throw it, and he can beat you throwing, or he can run it and beat you running. So that's one of those things that is a coach's nightmare. It's a linebacker and a safety's nightmare, because when they go and make their drops on a passing play, when they read their keys, see the guard and the tackle stand up, they start getting into their drops. They're dropping, but their eye is always, I got to look at who's in my receiver in my zone, or if I'm man, who do I have, the running back coming out of the backfield or a tight end. But your other have to have that peripheral vision on the quarterback Mom, because if you get too deep or your head turns around and you're facing your man, Danny Mom will take off and he'll fly right by you. Now we look at the Division 5 matchup, Auburn and Nipmuc. Auburn at the beginning of the season, if you looked at the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, I don't think anyone would have thought Auburn's going to play for a Central Mass Super Bowl. And here they are. They've had injuries. They had guys kind of trying to find their roles. Here they are playing for a Central Mass Super Bowl. That's a tip of the cap to those kids and the coaches. Right. That they stuck with the process, stuck with the program, and didn't give up. That's the biggest thing. Because you and I know football practices aren't fun. It's not fun to practice football. It's work. And when you're losing at the end of the week and you have 6 days, 7 days to think about that previous game, it's a long time. It's not playing 2 or 3 games a week where, okay, we lost on Tuesday. That's okay. We got another chance in 2 days. Right. It stays with you, and it can wear you down. You lose 2 in a row, 3 in a row. Snowballs. You've gone a month without winning. And credit to those kids and the coaches, because they kept them with it, and they stayed with it, and now they're seeing the fruits of that work. Right. We talked about it before, but I mean, Auburn over the years has just been a monster team. Right. Just beating teams. Starters out by halftime. Yeah. The line 400 pounds each. They don't have that. They haven't had it for a couple of years. Right. But Auburn this year, they're just doing enough to win, which is get the win. That's all that matters. Right. So they win 21-20 against Oakmont. That's fine. We walk away with our helmets held high. Right. So that's what they're doing. Colson Hammond throws for 3 touchdowns. To beat Oakmont, and they win 21-20. Right. That's just it's like they just do enough what they have to win. They've scored 14 points a game. They've given up 15 points a game. It's pretty much a level Auburn team, but they show up in big games. Like you said, the game's getting bigger, so is their play. Right. And that's what you see Colson Hammond, like they talk about that pick, and you think of the game that they played against Northbridge when it was scoreless at the end of regulation. They go into overtime, and they get the scoop and score on the fumble, and they take it back the other way for the touchdown to win it. It's a team that, like the kind of the Dolphins' no-name defense. You know, it's not a lot of stars that, you know, you and I talk about, you know, Fred Taylor from years past, and some of these big flashy names that you knew for 2 or 3 years. But these are kids that just bring their lunch pail, go to work, do their job. Everyone does their role. Everyone fills their role on the team. And when it's all said and done and it shakes out, they're in every game, and they have a shot to win it coming into the fourth quarter.
And they're looking at last week's tape with, you know, Northbridge, saying they're picking apart that game film all week. They're looking at seeing what, you know, they're having a hard time beating Northbridge. You know, what do they do? What can we expose? That's what they're looking at. They're looking to see what the weaknesses are. They don't do, Auburn is not a team one of those, okay, we're going to do X, Y, and Z every week, and that's how we win. They look at what we have to do to beat that team. Sort of like the Patriots in a way, where they look at that and say,
adapt.
They adapt.
Like the amoeba, almost amoeba defense and offense. How are we going to, okay, maybe their corner, we can try to pick on their corner, or see this defensive end, he follows, he crashes down because he wants to get sacks. All right, well, we'll throw a screen right over the top.
They'll look at stuff that Nipmuc did like 7 weeks ago, in the game against, you know, one of their opponents. Okay, what would they ran this one play, gave them fits all game, but they just weren't good enough to win. They'll key on that. And so it's pretty impressive, but because Nipmuc's an impressive team.
Well, I was just going to say
that defensive line is probably one of the best they're going to see all year.
Yeah, and that's the thing is now you look at this Nipmuc team, and you mentioned first and foremost defense. Football games are still won or lost on defense. No matter what your offense looks like, if your defense can't stop anyone, you're not going to win games. And this Nipmuc defense has been awesome all year long. I mean, they've been consistently good. It's never up and down. It's never, well, you can get them with the run, or you can get them in the pass, you can get them with screens, or trick plays. No, they are sound. They come at you. They're aggressive. They're physical. This is a tough defense to play against, and they will pin you. Field position is huge, no matter if it's Pop Warner, high school, college, or the pros. Field position is big. Their defense gives them good field position every week.
George Maurice is going to be everywhere, both sides of the ball for them. He's one of the better running backs, linebackers in Central Mass. And that's why I think it's where it hurts Auburn not having a game breaker on the offense, because they don't have anybody. Nipmuc's going in there saying, we got to stop this player to get the job done. Because they just know if we play our game and make them beat us, they're in good shape.
And Maurice's average is 11 yards a carry. And Nick Clark, too, is a quarterback that, you know, if they're going to put 8-10 guys in the box, he'll throw it. But if not, he can run. He's one of those dangerous weapons, too, that makes the safeties and the linebackers. Again, everyone, you're reading your keys, but your head's on a swivel. It's just tough to stop those guys. Clark's one of those guys. He's a talented and a great decision maker, too, at the quarterback. All right, Division 4, Marlboro, Neshoba, the rematch. This one was awesome.
Can't wait for
the first game of the year went into double overtime. Neshoba won at Marlboro. I think more of the same. I think these are two very evenly matched teams, two very well-coached teams. I love the two big guys going head-to-head here. This is, you know, Bo Jackson going against Brian Bosworth.
Easy reference.
Vigent and Hume. Two big boys, Vigent and Hume, going head-to-head, and I'm looking forward to it.
I can't wait. It's just going to be a great game. Like we talked earlier about the Valley Tech Leicester game, another one of those hard-hitting, lunch pail kind of games. There's not going to be any bounce passes or, you know, flea flicker plays. We got, you know, moving Kevin Short to quarterback because of injury gave Marlboro, I think, a little boost on offense. They still have three, you know, Evan Dory, Lou Vigent. That's tough. You know, it's almost like with Neshoba. Who do we stop? Neshoba's defense, other than St. John, other than Shrewsbury putting up 35 on them, only 3 teams have scored over 2. You know, have found the end zone twice in a game.
And
that's real impressive. With the schedule they play.
And you and I talked about this. Breeze Hill gets a ton of headlines and a ton of pub about offense and all the touchdown catches he has, and he should. Defensively, he's a game changer. He's the reason they won the game last week was his defense. He had a scoop and score on a fumble, like 60-something yards. He had an interception in the end zone to seal it for Neshoba. Hill's going to be a big factor in this game on both sides of the ball. And defensively, I really look for him because Marlboro, and we've talked about what Sean Mahoney can do, he's going to try to see, as the game evolves, he's going to see what they're giving him and try to take something. Okay, they're overplaying here, or we got man coverage here. With Breeze Hill, you can do things so you can put him man coverage. Now we only have 30 seconds.
How do you
Division 3.
There you go.
Shrewsbury St. John's, 30
the best
seconds.
game on the docket.
Tell me what you like, because I love this first game.
This is what Aspet feels like every week.
I know, and Archie and everyone else.
No, this is a great game. This is a rematch I want to happen. Few teams that, you know, have given St. John's trouble this year. Shrewsbury, one of them. Remember last year, people thought St. John's would be a walk. Shrewsbury beat them in the playoffs, went to the Super Bowl. I mean, same thing could happen. Shrewsbury's not scared of St. John's. Not too many people can say that.
No, and this is one of those things that you're right. The fans got what they wanted with this. They wanted the rematch. They got the rematch. This is Terrell Owens. Get your popcorn, get your seat, get there early, and enjoy this show, because this is a great show and two great quarterbacks. two great coaching staffs. I think it comes down to what defense can make 3 stops in this game. Which defense is going to make 3 stops? If you can do that, you're going to win the game because both offenses are that good.
Punchers are staying home. They're not allowed on the bus. Get to Doyle early. 3 great games up there.
All right, he's Jim Wilson. I'm Kevin Shea. Central Mass Super Bowls this week. We'll recap them and talk about the Central Mass, Western Mass games next week. We'll see you then. Frenzy Extra continues after this.
I'm going to brush up on Wacona.
To the college ranks now, Holy Cross has won 2 in a row. Believe it or not, the Crusaders have an outside shot of earning a share of the Patriot League Championship if they beat Lehigh coming up this week. But interim head coach Brian Rock isn't really focused on championships just yet. He's focusing on one game at a time, one day at a time, and preparing as if there's no tomorrow.
What's really important is that we take each day one step at a time and we do the things that will put us in a position to hopefully to compete on Saturday afternoon. You know, Lehigh's got an excellent football team, and we all know that everybody reads the papers. They know what's on the line and they know what's going on, and you know, to me it's about embracing the process and doing the things that it takes to put ourselves in a position to succeed.
All right, in the Where Are They Now category, we recently got a chance to visit with Koby Schofer. Remember him, the former quarterback, state champion for the Northbridge Rams? He's at Trinity College now, and he's made the move to wide receiver. In fact, Trinity just lost a game this past weekend. It's the first time he's been in a game where his team has lost since Thanksgiving Day of his senior year. It's been a couple of years now for Koby Schofer, who's made that move to receiver and fitting in quite nicely.
Roll out for Puzo. He's got Hirschman. Steady one. Schofer hits him in stride. Koby Schofer, good cut across the 45, and it's a big gainer for the
Going into last year, I knew I was switching to receiver, so it was going to be a little bit different. But after all of last year, all the practices and all that, I feel comfortable playing this year, and it's been working out. Thinking back to like high school, knowing like where I want my receivers to go, so that kind of comes into play when now I'm running the routes and thinking about where Sonny would want me. I've been checking in with Mike and Jake. Jake's at Stonehill, Mike's at Worcester State. They're both having good years, so it's been fun. Last year, just going up against our defense all last year, running routes, doing blocking, doing all that different stuff, it definitely helped prepare me for this year. It's definitely different, a lot more time, meetings, more practices, but I'm enjoying it. It's been fun so far.
The Alumni Dean's List now. We start with Abby Bangbos. Remember him? We saw him in the UMass Dartmouth-Worcester State game a little earlier this year. He's from Worcester, played at Fitchburg, 5 receptions, 108 yards, 2 touchdowns against Mass Maritime. Kevin Mensah keeps rolling, the former Shepherd Hill and Holy Name star at UConn, 95 yards on the ground, a touchdown, some receiving yards against South Florida. Zach Bratt out of Wachusett playing at Worcester State, 3 tackles in a win over Bridgewater State, a marquee win for the Lancer program. Brian McCarthy out of Wachusett playing at Bentley, 8 receptions, 53 yards in a win over New Haven. Nabil Tokotley sang the national anthem before the WPI game, the former Doherty star, 4 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss against Coast Guard. Stephen Bean out of David Prouty playing at Framingham State, 93 yards, receiving 2 touchdowns against Western Connecticut. Shane Padini out of Leicester playing at Becker College, 10 tackles against Salve Regina. Sean McEwen out of Shepherd Hill playing at Michigan, 30 yards receiving, had a touchdown in a game against Minnesota. And Koby Schofer, just heard from him, playing at Trinity out of Northbridge, 65 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns against Amherst. We'll see you Friday night for the Frenzy, Saturday night for the Central Mass Champions Frenzy, And we'll be back here next week for one more Frenzy Extra. Good night, everybody.